Last time, we read the opening to the story Lamb to the Slaughter by Roald Dahl, up to the moment of the shocking murder with a frozen leg of lamb. We assume that Mary's husband Patrick had told her that he was leaving her for another woman while she was pregnant. The story was written in the 1950s when people had very different attitudes about relationships and divorce and pregnancy. And this is why Patrick is so concerned about his job. As a policeman, it would do his reputation and his career no good. He's supposed to be a model citizen and behave with perfect morality publicly. If it were known that he was leaving a pregnant woman, he could lose his job or risk any future promotion. The problem is that Mary cannot bear to live without him. Remember how in love with him she was. We were told repeatedly in the opening of the story. Let's see what happens next. Listen carefully to the next stage. All right, she told herself, so I've killed him. It was extraordinary now how clear her mind became all of a sudden. She began thinking very fast. As the wife of a detective, she knew what the punishment would be. It made no difference to her. In fact, it would be a relief. On the other hand, what about the baby? What were the laws about murderers with unborn children? Did they kill them both, mother and child? Did they wait until the baby was born? What did they do? Mary Maloney didn't know, and she wasn't prepared to take a chance. She carried the meat into the kitchen, put it in a pan, turned on the oven and put the pan inside. Then she washed her hands, ran upstairs, sat down in front of the mirror, fixed her makeup and tried to smile. The smile was rather peculiar. She tried again. "Hello, Sam," she said, brightly, aloud. The voice sounded peculiar too. "I want some potatoes, Sam. Yes, and perhaps a can of peas." That was better. Both the smile and the voice sounded better now. She practiced them several times more. Then she ran downstairs, took her coat and went out the back door, through the garden, into the street. It wasn't 6 o'clock yet, and the lights were still on in the neighbourhood grocery. "Hello, Sam," she said brightly, smiling at the man in the shop. "Good evening, Mrs. Maloney. How are you?" "I want some potatoes, please, Sam. Yes, and perhaps a can of peas." "Patrick's decided he's tired and he doesn't want to eat out tonight," she told him. "We usually go out on Thursdays, you know, and now I don't have any vegetables in the house." "Then how about some meat, Mrs. Maloney?" asked the grocer. "No, I've got meat, thanks. I've got a nice leg of lamb from the freezer." "Do you want these potatoes, Mrs. Maloney?" "Oh, yes, they'll be fine. £2, please." "Anything else?" The grocer turned his head to one side looking at her. "How about dessert?" "What are you going to give him for dessert?" "How about a nice piece of cake? I know he likes cake." "Perfect," she said. "He loves it." And when she had bought and paid for everything, she gave her brightest smile and said, "Thank you, Sam. Good night." And now, she told herself, she was returning to her husband, and he was waiting for his supper. She had to cook it well and make it taste as good as possible, because the poor man was tired. And if she found anything unusual or terrible when she got home, then it would be a shock, and she would have to react with grief and horror. Of course, she was not expecting to find anything unusual at home. She was just going home with the vegetables on Thursday evening to cook dinner for her husband. That's the way, she told herself. Do everything normally. Keep things absolutely natural, and there'll be no need for acting at all. As she entered the kitchen, she was quietly singing to herself. "Patrick," she called. "How are you, darling?" She put the package on the table and went into the living room. And when she saw him lying on the floor, it really was a shock. All the old love for him came back to her, and she ran over to him, knelt down beside him, and began to cry hard. It was easy. No acting was necessary. A few minutes later, she got up and went to the phone. She knew the number of the police station. And when the man on the other end answered, she cried to him, "Quick! Come quick! Patrick's dead!" Now, we'll pause the story there again and finish it next time. But first, let's focus on Mary's behaviour in this section of the story. She worries about getting the death penalty, a punishment that was still given to murderers in this country when the story was written in the 1950s. She then begins to act rather strangely, and it is this behaviour that I want us to scrutinise in the slides presentation shared with you. Let's look at how Roald Dahl presents this moment. The final slide asks you to write a script of the conversation between Mary and the detective who arrives to investigate Patrick's murder. Think carefully about what clues could be in the house, what mistakes Mary could have made to give her away. I want you to think like a detective.